I'm pretty settled with calling myself an atheist, or at least an agnostic. I'm sure there's no God out there who sends down angels to count up all the good and bad deeds we've done in this world. Would a God even care what we do with ourselves, who we sleep with, foods we eat, whether we pray to him or not? If God is so perfect and in him contains all the positive and superhuman qualities, why would he need us humans to exist anyway? Muslims often say that Allah created us so that we can worship him. Isn't that the height of vanity? What a double standard, to claim yourself as the most vainless Al-Karim, and then want humans to worship you 500 times a day. The double standard doesn't end there. Allah is the most merciful, Ar-Rahim. He is more merciful than a mother is merciful to her child. However, he will sentence those who don't believe in him, those who commit adultery, those who commit suicide, etc., into the depths of hell, where they will roast and have their skin burnt off and then be replaced for eternity. Would mothers really burn their children for all of time for committing nasty deeds? I think not. This God is incredibly two-faced, yet billions turn to him for prayer, chanting things like, "God is great," over and over again like drones. Islam has this medieval perspective that if one murders, that person must be killed. An eye for an eye. My mother taught me that this was the right way to life, and I brought such a perspective to me when I went to school. Many disagreed, saying that people can still change and that there may be a never-ending thirst for revenge in a chain of people. Those who think like this, I considered, are pretty forgiving. Those who do not think it works like this, and instead stick to the perspective of eye for an eye, are pretty unforgiving towards murder. But isn't Allah the most forgiving? Isn't he Al-Ghafar? Another double standard. And anyway, back to the point about evildoers in hell. Isn't action lasting mere moments in the large scale of universal history really worth torture lasting the large scale of universal history? People are crazy, and to think like this will be detrimental to the billions who believe, or are indoctrinated into these beliefs. At least it was to me. Some people don't really give a shit and put it into themselves that they'll have a free ticket to heaven. I was constantly scared of this hell whenever I purposely committed a sin like missing morning prayer when I was too tired to get up from bed, or showing my aura to someone who was not supposed to see it. And the only way I could comfort myself was to tell myself not to think about it. But then I would be forgetting God, and that would be adding to more sins to pay for my place in hell. Thus I was scared constantly of God. I didn't want to live in fear. I wanted to live in truth, which is why becoming an atheist was one of the best decisions of my life. Instead of a God, I think there is a spiritual being out there who made the matter and the antimatter, and the quarks, and the protons, and the neutrons, and the electrons, that later made atoms, that made compounds like hydrogen, that made suns that burnt out for millions of years, that later somehow created life. It's like a scientist who created something with a simple concept that expanded into something great, sort of like Conway's game of life. Depending on how you play it, it will either eat itself out into nothingness or expand indefinitely into infinity. This spiritual being is watching us in our test tubes, developing on this little ball. It must be amusing to see us fight and kill each other over gods we created. It must be intriguing to see species be born and die. It must be nice to wonder what's to happen to this game of life they've created. Will it die out on itself eventually? Or will it thrive and grow into something great?